Hey YouTubers, what's up? It's Cam Girl. So, for the past year, I've been really into murder mysteries and true crime YouTube channels, and I've always wanted to make one of these videos of my own. So, here we are. Today, we are gonna dive into the mind of a psychopath. I'm sure you've heard about them. Maybe you know one in your real life. What defines a psychopath? Canadian psychologist Dr. Hare developed a checklist called the Psychopathic checklist, which consists of 20 different personality traits and recorded behaviors of psychopaths, including promiscuous behavior, lack of empathy, grandiose sense of self-worth, and more. I wanted to take this test myself to see where I stand on the psychopath test scale. You could take the test yourself. The link is below. I live like a parasite on others. By borrowing money I will never pay back, cynically exploiting others for favors, etc. I hate owing people things and I hate borrowing money, so I'm gonna say this does not apply to me. I generally evade responsibility and do not answer to anyone in my life. Fuck everyone, I'm the boss of my own life. And I have tons of responsibilities, and I do answer to one person, that's God. And two, my mom. I have broken many different types of laws. My law breaking has not been restricted to any single domain, such as sexual, financial, or similar. Definitely not gonna self-snitch on myself. I'm gonna say I'm an angel. Insert halo here. Duh! So no, I think I'm a pretty nice person. So I'm gonna say it does not apply. I think I'm doing pretty good here. Alright, so now I have my test results. I am apparently 4.5% less psychopathic than the average person. I don't know like if you get like a point scale, but this test didn't give me like a point scale, but apparently I do not qualify as a psychopath on the psychopathy checklist. Woo! The best thing that happened to me in 2020 so far. Alright, so if you took the test yourself, let me know what score you got in the comments below. So we're gonna get into it. The villain of our story today, she scored the full 40, which is the maximum score you can get on the psychopathy checklist. And apparently, getting a full 40 is extremely rare. This lady, she is notoriously known as Lady in Korea. So let's get on our time machine and travel back to the year 1998. Lady an attractive young woman with a kind attitude, had just graduated high school and she got a job as an insurance agent. She married a moving center employee and they had just had their first daughter. Everything was fine and dandy, but then 2 years later, just 2 years, her daughter had tragically passed by falling from a desk and getting a concussion. At this point, Lady had been prescribed antidepressants. This is also the point in her life when things went from bad to extremely worse. She fed her husband her own antidepressants and pushed him hard enough to cause him to fall and have a concussion. In that same month, she pulled the same move again. She once again fed her husband her antidepressant medication and she pushed him once again, causing him to fall and having another concussion. However, this time she received $340 in insurance money. This was her first taste in claiming insurance benefits, and it definitely was not gonna be her last. She was gonna ramp up the mayhem. Only 1 month later, in May of 2000, she fed her husband another round of her antidepressants. And I know what you're thinking, how the hell is he falling for the same f***ing thing? When he had fallen asleep, she took a needle and she poked his right eye, causing him to go blind in one eye. Another year had passed for her poor husband, and Lady was back in action. She fed him pills yet again, and while he was sleeping, she poured hot oil on his face, causing him to have burns all over his face. As if this wasn't enough, she used the same pill tactic to get her husband to fall asleep, and 3 different times in September of 2001, January of 2002, and February of 2002, she stabbed her husband's stomach with a knife, causing him severe injuries. Ow. How the hell did she get away with all of this? Her poor husband had a history of psychiatric problems, and the people around him thought that he was inflicting harm on himself. In the end, her husband had passed away due to an infection during treatment at the hospital for the stab wounds. And the psychopath, Lady had received 280 million won, which is equivalent to about $253,000 in insurance money. Keep in mind, she had a short stint as an insurance agent after high school, so she knew that you could get the most insurance money when someone dies, and then when someone goes blind, and then under that is when they get burned. So, Lady had gotten away with her first victim, and she was on the prowl for her next. Less than 2 months after her first husband had died, she was out on the town partying with her newly claimed insurance money, and this is where she met her second victim at a nightclub, and his name was Mr. Hong. At this point, she was ready for a new life. She used one of her psychopathic characteristics, which is pathological lying, to create the perfect cover story for herself. She was a kindergarten teacher who had majored in early education. Who is nicer and more trustworthy than a kindergarten teacher? Exactly. She also said that she came from a very rich family and her mother had $1 million to her name. And to prove this, she bought him a $30,000 car with cash. The two had fallen madly in love and they moved in together. And shortly after, Lady had begun her merciless and meticulous plan to ruin Mr. Hong's life. Within 6 months of moving in together, Lady had used the same pill method and pushed Mr. Hong. He had suffered a tailbone injury, and while he was at the hospital, she went to go apply for a marriage license certificate for them. Remember, you can only receive insurance benefits if you are legally married to the person. Immediately after marrying Mr. Hong, she fed him more pills to lure him to sleep. Again, Lady she poked this man's eye with a needle, causing him to go blind. According to Mr. Hong's family, he was an athlete and he was very healthy, but after meeting Lady he was frequently hospitalized and it was very suspicious. However, they didn't think to suspect Lady because, as stated by Mr. Hong's sister, she was very nice. She was nice to us. She was friendly and she never felt like someone who could commit a crime. We completely trusted her, and that's where you went wrong. Each time Mr. Hong was hospitalized, she was right by his side, making it impossible for family members to even doubt her love and commitment to him. Just 3 months after filing for their marriage, Mr. Hong died of unexplainable causes while being treated at the hospital. Kinda like her first husband. The craziest part is that just hours before his death, Mr. Hong's sister had visited him at the hospital and she described him as being very healthy and fit, and they were having a normal conversation. So she was very confused when she got the call at 4 or 5 a.m. and got the news that her brother had just passed. No one knew until this point, but Lady was 3 months pregnant. When the family found out, they told her to have an abortion. She was young, she should go and start a new life. However, she insisted on keeping the baby and holding a spirit wedding, which is basically a wedding ceremony where one or both parties are deceased. The family was incredibly moved by her actions. Of course, this was all an act for Lady Shortly after the funeral, Lady collected her insurance coin and she vanished. It is estimated that she received about $70,000 for the death of her second husband. With her second victim dead, Lady was not looking to stop. This time, she turned to her own family. 5 months after the death of her second husband, Lady was staying with her mother. She crushed sleeping pills in a glass of pomegranate juice, took a needle from a syringe, and she poked both of her mother's eyes. Lady mother became blind just like her first and second husband. Ow. Unfortunately, and of course, it didn't stop there. She pulled the same stunt on her older brother. She mixed sleeping pills in a glass of alcohol, and when he went to sleep, oh my god, she injected hydrochloric acid into both of his eyes. I don't even know what hydrochloric acid is, but I know I don't want that in my eyes. Oh god. While her brother was being treated in the hospital, she attempted to kill him by injecting drugs into his IV. Thankfully, she was unsuccessful at this homicide attempt and her brother survived. Roughly a year had passed and Lady was itching to create more mayhem. She slipped pills in her younger brother and her blind older brother's cups and began to burn their own apartment down. Thankfully, again, oh my God, older brother, we love you. He woke up during the fire and was able to call the fire department and save the apartment. She honestly probably hates this guy so much. All right, so now her mother and her older brother are blind. Her mother, older brother, and younger brother are all badly burned, and their apartment is completely damaged due to the fire. Lady had nowhere to turn to. Her next victim was a family friend by the name of Mrs. Kang, who had previously worked as a housekeeper at the Ohm's family home. Ohm had begged Mrs. Kang to let her stay with her and her family. Mrs. Kang said, "I felt sorry for her. She was a young woman who was alone, and it seemed like she was struggling and had nowhere to go." No, Mrs. Kang, no! Mrs. Kang had allowed Ohm to stay at the house for a month. Ohm had promised that her stay would not be permanent and that she would be looking for her own place. And on the exact date that she was supposed to move out, a fire broke out in the middle of the night. Coincidence with Lady Ohm? Never. Mrs. Kang's family was rushed to the hospital for their burns. Mrs. Kang and her children had made it through this tragedy, thank God. But unfortunately, Mrs. Kang's husband did not. At this point, I'm not sure what's going on in Ohm's head. Why did she burn Mrs. Kang's apartment down? It's not like she was gonna claim insurance benefits for that. Did they get into some sort of argument beforehand? Was there tension between them? Was she angry that Mrs. Kang and her children had made it out alive? No one knows. What we do know is that thankfully they were the last victims of Lady Ohm. While the Kang family were being treated at the hospital for their burns, Ohm, in a frenzy, poured oil all over the steps of the hospital, attempting to burn the building down. Thank God she was caught in the act and arrested immediately. When the police had looked into her background, they discovered that so much bad stuff happened to the people around her. Both of her husbands had died. Her mother and older brother were blind. Her younger brother was badly burnt, and the list goes on and on. They looked into her insurance records and they were shocked to find out that she was the recipient of nearly all of the insurance money from those incidents. It is estimated that from all of these horrific events, she received a total of 596 million won, which is equivalent to about $540,000. The police couldn't wrap their head around why or how someone would do this to their supposed loved ones. Lady Ohm had confessed to the police that she did all of this for drugs and that she was a drug addict. She even told her public attorney that she was on drugs. However, no one believed this. The second husband's sister brought up a great point, which is, if she was on drugs, then how could she have kids? And they were right. She tested 100% negative for any drug. That's when she flipped the script and tried to plead insanity. After undergoing psychiatric evaluation for a month, no signs of mental defection or temporary insanity were found. Her results did find that she had BPD, which is borderline personality disorder. However, thank you, court. They ruled that BPD had nothing to do with criminal liability and that she was going to be sentenced to life in prison. She is still carrying out her sentence till this day. This is a case of justice being served in the court of law. Unfortunately, there are just one too many victims that lost loved ones, lost their fucking eyesight, and are likely to be traumatized to this day and their whole life. So my prayers go out to them. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I know it's a crazy and intense story, so I appreciate you guys for getting through all the way to the end. When I first heard the story, I was in disbelief because I still can't believe that someone could do this to their family and loved ones. And so I called my mom and I told her about it, and she actually knew about it already because it was a super famous case in the last decade. So I want to make this video and share the story with you all. Let me know what you guys thought about this video and if I should make more videos like this, because I'm trying to figure out like what direction I want to go with my YouTube. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe, and also tune into my Twitch on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I do DJ streams every Sunday night. I'm a really cool DJ. Love you all and peace.